Good morning, good morning, good morning, all. 24 lessons, 5 weeks, stories about armor, mistakes, trust, truth, courage, strange light, broken places, first attempts, and the terrifying possibility that we may still become more than we have been. For 5 weeks, we've talked about how to live, how to lead, and how to move through the world without a net. But today, I don't have another lesson for you. Not a framework or a 5-step process, not a worksheet, not a helpful acronym that someone in a conference room spent 6 months developing. Just a reminder that we are not finished, and you are not finished. The people around us are not finished, and despite all available evidence on certain mornings, the world is not beyond repair. Today, we're bringing it home. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, Jess. Jess is first in, and my friend Cheryl, Raphael Whitaker. Good morning, good morning. Yes, welcome. And my mother, yes. I'm saying yes a lot, but yes, 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 yes. And this is it. The final episode of the Without a Net series. We've made it 25 days, 5 themes, 24 lessons, and one final morning. Final morning together for sure. Sully's in the house, the whole crew. We've been building this compass, the compass for moments when the plan stops working and when certainty disappears and when the road divides, when that room becomes quiet and we have to decide who we are without knowing exactly what happens next. And this week we've been talking about believing bigger. We acted before confidence fully arrived and remembered that we're still becoming. And looking for meaning inside the hidden room, we began before all the evidence was available, and now we've reached the final day. But this morning isn't just about believing in yourself. Certainly that matters, but belief becomes much more powerful when it moves beyond us. Today is about believing in others, believing that growth remains possible, that hope is not foolish, that optimism is not denial, and kindness is not weakness. The truth does not have to destroy, that a person may become more because someone else saw more in them. Robert Hunter wrote, "Inspiration, move me brightly," and that has been our thread this week. Move me brightly, not because the road will always be easy or that every question will be answered and every ending will be the one we wanted. Move me brightly because darkness doesn't deserve the final word. Thanks for joining me here on Kindness Rising, everyone. We are doing it today, absolutely, and as we do every single morning, weekdays, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, right here on Mornings in the Lab Network. I'm bringing you a Who in the World that's tied to our topic. Here is our Who in the World. 3 clues throughout today's episode for a person who is special to our topic. This person escaped Nazi-controlled Europe as a child to become a major player in the music industry. There it is. Escaped Nazi-controlled Europe to become a major player. Absolutely. And of course, all my friends here, we're going to do our spotlight. I never forget to spotlight somebody or something. How about some tunes? We've been missing the music, haven't we? Something's not right here today. Here it is. Our spotlight today. Yep, we have to do it because of, oh, wait, do we? This is what happens when we produce our own shows. There they are. I've talked about them before, but I got to talk about them again today as we wind down. It's the Rex Foundation, created by members of the Grateful Dead community, family, and friends as a way to turn the energy of the music into support for people doing meaningful work. The band realized they'd built something unusual, and that it was more than a catalog of songs. It was a community, and at its best, community eventually asks a question. Who can we help? The Rex Foundation has supported grassroots organizations working in the arts, education, social sciences, community development, and other areas of human need. That is belief translated into action, because believing bigger means I believe your work matters. Your ideas deserve a chance. You should not have to carry this alone. And that's where hope becomes help. And hope that never becomes help, that can remain only a pleasant feeling. But real hope eventually gets its hands dirty. It writes a check, it carries a box, it makes an introduction or shares the stage. Hope shows up. Belief becomes powerful when someone else can grow inside it. So today we shine the spotlight on the Rex Foundation and on every person who has ever used their own success, their influence, their resources, their attention to help someone else rise. Because community is not only measured by how loudly we sing together, it's measured by what we're willing to do for one another when the music stops. That's the Rex Foundation. All right, check it out, people. Check out the Rex Foundation, the world of the Grateful Dead turned to helping others in the community. Absolutely. I hope everybody is having a glorious, wonderful morning. Welcome and thank you for joining me here on Kindness Rising, just like we do every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, to get you up with a little bit more hope, a little bit more high fives for humanity, and less rage bait right here on Kindness Rising to get the Mornings in the Lab Network kicked off. Kick it off. All right. We'll do a Wait That Happened today, a little bit different. We're not really talking about something that happened necessarily today, but it did happen. It really happened. And some people, I think, might want to know this. I was interested in it. It's always fascinating to me. The Grateful Dead. Yes, I'm talking about the Grateful Dead once and again, as always. But this is a little bit different. We're going to talk about the history of the Dead. Where the heck did this name Grateful Dead come from? I think a lot of people associate it, because of the word dead in it, as being angry or dark or, problematic, let's just say. But remember, before the Grateful Dead was the Grateful Dead, they had they were called the Warlocks. Yes, the band was called the Warlock, which isn't a terrible name, but there was a problem. There was a group that was already using it, so the band needed a new name. And according to the story, to the legend that's been told over and over again, they're hanging out in the apartment, and Garcia opens up a dictionary. They didn't do a branding workshop or a focus group or a strategic positioning session. They were probably just hanging out, opened up a dictionary, and found the phrase Grateful Dead. Now, that phrase comes from old folklore, if people don't know the story behind what the Grateful Dead really is or means. A traveler discovers that a dead person has been denied a proper burial, often because of an unpaid debt. And then that traveler uses their own resources to settle the debt to make sure the stranger is treated with dignity. Later, when that traveler who paid off the debt faces trouble, a mysterious companion appears and offers help, and that helper is revealed to be the spirit of the person whose debt had been paid. The traveler's kindness, offered without any expectation of return, somehow finds its way home. Think about that. One of the most unusual and enduring names in music was rooted in an old story about helping someone who could never repay you. It kind of feels appropriate because at its best, the Grateful Dead story was never only about the people on the stage. It was also about what formed around the music. The friendships, the travelers, the tapers and artists, vendors and crews, people sharing directions, food, rides, tickets, a place to sleep, whatever it was imperfect. Oh, was it imperfect? Every human community is, but underneath it was an idea. The experience becomes larger when people contribute to it. Someone plays a song, someone creates the light, the sound system, the room. Someone helps a stranger and carries that kindness farther. The band did not arrive at its name through extensive proof and perfect planning. They opened a book, found a strange phrase, and followed where it led. Sometimes our compass doesn't look like a compass. Sometimes it's just an open dictionary. And yes, that happened. Hello, hello, hello John Petruccelli. Dr. Petro, are you back stateside now? Yep, that is how the Grateful Dead did find their name. Yep. And let's move on right now to second clue. Let's get a clue here. Who in the world are we talking about? First, this is a person who escaped Nazi-controlled Europe as a child to become a major player in the music industry. Secondly, he built his career creating places where other people could become legendary. Places where other people could become legendary. That was his contribution. Who in the world are we talking about today? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Another sip of coffee as we keep rocking here on a Friday. All right, now let's slide into something a little different here. All right, we'll keep rocking and rolling, and let's talk about hope. Not vague hope or decorative hope, not hope printed on a mug somewhere or a poster hanging behind me. Here's the thing, hope is often mistaken as a prediction. We think hope means everything's going to work out. We don't know that. Sometimes everything doesn't work out, and sometimes the diagnosis is serious. A relationship ends, or a business closes, or a person disappoints us. That loss still remains a loss. Hope is not a guarantee that we'll receive the outcome we want. Hope is the belief that a meaningful response remains possible. That distinction matters. Optimism doesn't mean denying the problem. It means refusing to assume the problem is the only force at work. It says this is difficult and my actions still matter. This is uncertain and I can still take the next step. I have failed and failure is not my permanent identity. Hope asks us to imagine a destination, to look for possible routes, and to believe that some movement remains within our power. Sometimes that belief begins inside us, and sometimes we borrow it. A teacher sees a writer before the student does. A coach sees an athlete. A leader sees potential. And maybe a friend just remembers us during a season when we have forgotten. A parent might say, try again. Or a colleague says, your idea belongs in this room. Sometimes the first evidence a person receives that they can grow is that someone else treats their growth as possible. Yep. Here's the thing, once that happens, we can either reinforce the smallest version of a person, or we can create a room where they can become. We can say things like, you always do this. This is just who you are. You're not ready. You're not leadership material. You're too old, too young, too difficult, too damaged, too late. Or we can tell the truth without confusing the current truth with the final truth. We can say this didn't work. We need to repair it. We need to learn. We need to take responsibility. We can say growth is still possible. Remember, psychological safety is not pretending everyone is already excellent. It's creating a place where people can be honest about what is not working without being permanently reduced to it. Yep. That's what we've been talking about all week long. All 5 weeks. Psychological safety. People don't become their best because we pressure them into proving their worth. They grow when truth and care and challenge and candor and possibility all exist in the same room. That's disciplined optimism. Not, everything's going to be fine. It'll work out. Sometimes constructive may still be possible, and we are not finished yet. Just remember that. Constructive may be possible, and we are not finished yet. That's it. That's what I had to say about that. All right. Yep, I'm telling stories about the Grateful Dead. We're tying the 5 weeks, 25 episodes, I guess, if you want to call it. It was developed to serve a purpose. Every single one of my thumbnails, if you go back and look at it, contains a certain object. A couple of objects, but one really important one. The compass. Without a net, was developed to serve as a compass, a way to remember what matters, when the road gets uncertain, and when we began this by talking about showing up real, right? Taking off our armor and closing the gap between who we say we are and how we actually show up. We learned that trust is built before truth is needed. Honesty doesn't have to be brutal. Doesn't have to be brutal. Honesty doesn't have to be brutal. Remember, challenge, care, that spot, beautiful spot. Absolutely. We learned how to own our mess and take responsibility without turning every mistake into our identity as that paint can bounced down the stairs. We learned that perfection hides while excellence practiced. We learned from a torn veil by my grandmother, that sometimes the story we create about another person is completely wrong. And we learned to ask one more question, to leave room for people to be more complicated and more interesting than our first conclusion. Believing bigger, acting before confidence fully arrived. And most importantly, remembering that we are still a beginner. We're still becoming. And being a beginner is not something to apologize for. Our current season is not our permanent identity. We can grow. Yep. And we can grow in light, and we can grow in darkness. Darkness doesn't get the exclusive ownership of a room, though. It can still hold a living voice. And yesterday we began before evidence, if you remember that, because sometimes the first attempt is not the final exam. It's evidence collection. I didn't discover kindness rising and then create it. I began creating and gradually discovered what it could become. Yeah. And underneath every single one of our, I hate using the word lessons, but I'm going to use it, lessons, was the same idea. Playing without a net. Remember, playing without a net is not the absence of preparation. Musicians rehearse, athletes train, leaders study, creators practice. We prepare and do the work. Then when the real moment arrives, often something unexpected happens. The plan changes, or the technology freezes. People react differently than we imagined. And that's where playing without a net really begins. We stop pretending that we can control every outcome and enter the moment fully awake, present, honest, curious, ready to respond. Remember, that's not recklessness. Walking out there on that net, it's not recklessness. It's responsiveness. And now, after this series, I believe something even more strongly. That belief cannot stop with believing in ourselves. Yes, believe in yourself. Absolutely. Believe that your mistakes don't own your identity, that age isn't an expiration date, that your voice belongs in the room. But turn that belief outward. Believe in the employee whose best idea hasn't yet felt safe enough to share. The child who needs an adult to see something larger, or the friend who has confused a hard season with a permanent future. That's what we're doing. We're believing in the beginner. We're believing in the person being able to rebuild trust, that one step is still climbing and climbing. We're not telling people we believe in them. We're building the conditions where their gifts can become possible and they have opportunity. Yep. Standing beside them while they learn, while they grow, challenging them without defining them by the challenge. Remember, kindness is not merely being pleasant. Kindness has courage. It tells the truth and protects dignity. It creates opportunity. It asks, who can I help to rise? Not passively, not naively, and not magically. Belief is the choices about how we enter an uncertain world. We don't know how everything ends. We can't control every outcome. And there's definitely no net beneath the moment. But we can still show up real. Own the mess. Tell the truth with care. Believe bigger. And we can help someone else rise. And maybe that's the whole point. Aiden loves fish. Welcome in, as we're coming in at the end of our journey. But I hope that maybe, Aiden, you'll join us and continue on this journey. Just because the series is ending, although Without a Net series is ending, Kindness Rising is still showing up 7:30 a.m. every single morning. Absolutely. All right, let's get to our clue number 3. Are we ready for Who in the World? Who in the World? 3 clues to get you connected, someone who's connected to our story. Escaped Nazi-controlled Europe as a child to become a major player in the music industry. He built his career creating places where other people could become legendary. And last but not least, maybe this will or not. I don't know. Does anybody sniffing around this one? That's what I say. Are you sniffing around it? All right. Clue number 3, his name became inseparable from the San Francisco music scene and the Grateful Dead before his tragic death in a helicopter accident. San Francisco music scene and the Grateful Dead, not on stage, before his tragic death in a helicopter accident. All right. I also want to connect us lastly to the songs, right? We connected songs every week, had a different song. I want us to remember those key lyrics that Robert Hunter wrote for the Dead, and just hoping that those couple of lines just might stick. We started with Help on the Way. When people ask me what's my favorite Grateful Dead song, that's the answer. I was blind all the time I was learning to see. Yep, I was blind. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't less than. I was just blind, and I'm learning. That's it. We're all just learning to see. And how do we see? Sometimes we see when that light shows up from an unexpected place, right? Scarlet begonias. Once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. That was our line from that. It reminds us to keep looking and understand that everything has a purpose. The light has a purpose if we look for it. Then we talked about Uncle John's band, who asking us one simple question. Are you kind? Are you kind? Are you able to see in others something about yourself? Are you able to understand that we're all part of the same cosmic dust of the universe? Are you kind? And lastly, we're talking about Terrapin Station. Terrapin Station, inspiration, move me brightly. Not a song that hands us a tiny answer, but a journey, a landscape, a destination we feel, even when we can't completely explain it. Because the biggest questions in life don't always resolve into statements, right? Statements just seem vain at last. Another line from the song. Why are we questions are better? Why are we here? What makes our meaningful life? How do we remain hopeful without actually lying to ourselves? How do we continue after a loss, and how do we know which road to follow? There are mysteries, dark and vast. Too dark, too large, too human for a slogan, but the absence of a complete answer doesn't mean the absence of direction. We may not have a map, but we can still carry a compass. Absolutely. Yep, a compass that points to Terrapin. Terrapin Station, a great idea, I feel like. A darkness head, aha. Busting out the Indigo Girls is Jess. I love it. I love it. Darkness says a hunger that's insatiable. Yep, that's a good, great song. Okay. Moving on. Well, I have to do my reveal. Does anybody know who I was talking about? Thanks, Mom. A person who escaped Nazi control in Europe and as a child to become a major player in the music industry. He built his career creating places where other people could become legendary, and his name became inseparable with the San Francisco music scene and the Grateful Dead before his tragic death in a helicopter. Guesses? 3, 2, 1. Well, maybe we're learning about someone today that we don't know. This gentleman's name is Bill Graham. Bill Graham was the promoter, the theater runner, the backstage guy for the Grateful Dead. The Fillmore, famous venues all over. And he didn't write songs. He rarely stood at the microphone, maybe to do an intro or some kind of zany thing that he liked to do. But he understood something essential, that music needs more than talent. He built the ultimately psychologically safe room with the stage, the sound, the light, the audience, a door that opens. A person willing to turn possibility into an actual event. I was thinking of, I paused for a second there because he has a famous quote about the Grateful Dead, other than calling them the Grateful Goddamn Dead. I forget what it was. I was going to... Okay, anyway, that's Bill Graham. Bill Graham, amazing promoter, producer, like legendary, who died in a tragic helicopter accident along with Stevie Ray Vaughan, 1990, maybe 91, I can't remember, somewhere in there. I was a freshman in college. I'll never forget my RA announcing it to us. He was our RA of my freshman year. Was a big musician and into all this stuff, and he was touched by that moment. I remember him being very touched. Okay. Well, that's it. I mean, I'm like, wait, what? That's great. Sully. All right. Okay. Well, here's the thing, guys. I had a lot more, and maybe we'll continue, but I just wrote as I was thinking about concluding this series, and I'm like, holy crap. I've got notes. I have essentially a script, but yeah, there's like 6 pages left. Not going to get to it. Okay, apparently I was moved. I was inspired. Inspiration moved me brightly to create the Without a Net series for us. Here's the thing. I thought I was creating it for you. That's not true. Yep. No, I created it as much for us, or for me, I mean. That's not because I'm selfish, but what I learned and what I got out of creating it was more meaningful than what I feel I created. So I'm excited to have been able to do this, and let's bring it on home and weave the thread once more on the Without a Net series. I'm sure we'll be referring to it on future episodes, but this is the official conclusion of Without a Net. Robert Hunter wrote, "Inspiration moved me brightly." So let's let it move us. Move us when the road is clear. Move us when it's not. Give us enough light for the next step, enough courage for the next truth, enough humility to repair the next mistake, enough hope to begin again, and enough kindness to bring somebody with us. Of course, we're going to face mysteries dark and vast, too large to solve, questions that don't offer neat answers, and seasons when our words feel too small. Plans that fail and people we can't save, outcomes we cannot control. But we can still choose how we enter the moment. We can show up real and take off the armor. Look again and stay curious. Ask one more question. Own the mess. Find meaning in a hidden room. We can believe in ourselves, believe in one another, and we can turn hope into help. We can fully prepare and then step into the known without pretending there is a net beneath us. Yep, we're not sure what the destination is, except maybe it's a life that is awake, honest, hopeful, useful, and kind. A life that leaves more courage in the room than it found, more truth or possibility and light. Yep, we're all seeking that destination, a place of peace, a place of belonging, a place where the music, the meaning, and the moment finally meet. That's Terrapin Station. The compass always points to Terrapin, and the only way there is forward without a net. Thank you for taking this road with me. Thank you for every morning, every comment, every story, and every moment. Thank you for believing that kindness can still matter, that truth can still build trust, and that we can grow. Absolutely. None of us is finished yet. And that's why we'll be back here 7:30 a.m. Monday morning right here on Kindness Rising. And until then, stay uncommon and stay kind.